Warriors, and welcome to spillingteawithroxy episode 9. Today's episode is all about endometriosis and it's going to be with one of my really good friends, Gaynor Blackbird. Today's episode is quite a sensitive one, so I want to give a little trigger warning. We're talking a lot about womb fertility and the journey to receive an endometriosis diagnosis. So it will be a sensitive subject, but I think it's a very important conversation to be having, and to spread a little bit of light and awareness on that for everyone. As you know, 1 in 10 women worldwide suffer with endometriosis in one way or another. So I think this is relevant to a lot of people in the universe. Just a quick disclaimer, just to let you know, me and Gaynor are obviously not medical practitioners or doctors. We are just 2 women that are talking about health and awareness. So today on spillingteawithroxy, just know that anything said is not to be taken on board without speaking to your actual real health practitioner. Hey warriors, and welcome to this week's episode of spillingteawithroxy, episode 9. Today I am very delighted to be joined by a long-term friend, a beautiful human, and an endo warrior named Gaynor Blackbird. Hey Gaynor, it's nice to have you today on the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I'm so appreciate you being here. If you guys don't know Gaynor is a endometriosis warrior who is a long-term friend of mine, and you can catch Gaynor at Gaynor Blackbird on Instagram. And today we're going to talk about her story and her story to diagnosis and where she is today. So I will let Gaynor introduce herself and tell you a bit about herself.
Hi everybody, I'm Gaynor. I'm nearly 30, which I'm really excited about but also nervous. I do a lot of art stuff. During the pandemic, I picked up the art form of crochet. I'm obsessed with making hats, gloves, anything really that I can get my hands on that I can try and make and not make look silly. I like to paint, draw. I like to sing. I recently started meeting a few people to possibly get a band together, which is really exciting. It's like me reliving my teenage dream over here. I have a dog called Reggie. He's like a little baby. He takes up all of my time, but I love him. He's adorable.
All of you guys, you know I love dogs, so I'm going to definitely put a little picture of Reggie somewhere in this little video so you can like literally pine over him like I do, because I don't have dogs and I'm a dog person and it breaks my heart. So to see a lovely little mum pup over there, it brings me a lot of joy. So I think we should spread the joy with Reggie's face so everyone can see him and see your work as well on your Instagram. I think that would be kind of cool because she is really cool and she does amazing music and I've known her for a very long time, so definitely check Gaynor out. So Gaynor, let's talk about endometriosis. Obviously it's something new to me. Obviously everyone knows that I'm an MS warrior. So how did it come about for you? Like, how did you get to an endometriosis diagnosis?
It's been a really long journey. I was only really diagnosed a month and a half ago. So at the start of December, I went ahead and had a surgery. It wasn't particularly easy to like get to that point. My journey kind of began to what I can remember back in 2016.
Okay.
Back in 2016, I found out that I was pregnant. I was in a really difficult relationship at the time. The partner was really unsupportive, and I was going through a really awkward time in my life with depression and work. It wasn't an easy decision for me to come to ahead that I'd decided to have a termination. It's the first time that I've ever had a termination. I've never fallen pregnant before. And I didn't really know what to expect. I definitely felt my body change. I started to be in pain with my stomach. I was quite bloated a lot of the time. And I was very tired. I'd been on a holiday to Cuba for 2 weeks for my 25th. And
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And it's not an easy story to tell. So I know this is an emotional thing. So just take your time, because anyone listening to this is here because they have a similar story and they feel very much similar to you. And I know for you, this is the first time you're sharing it. So anyone listening to this is the first time Gaynor's telling this story. And it's a really important, powerful story. And it takes a lot of vulnerability to be open and honest in a space like this, you know? So I'm here to support you. The community, we're all going to love you, and we're all here to support you. And we're here because we want to hear the story. And I know that feeling that emotion, going through something when you're not feeling like you're being supported, and then having to take a big step, and then finding out another chapter has been added to that story for you at such a young age. You're young still now, like compared to me, you're still a baby. I've got like a few years on you. I know that that hits hard. Like any illness for anyone hits in so many levels, mentally, physically, and emotionally. And it takes a lot of strength to get through it. But it takes a whole nother layer of strength for you to be sitting in front of me now and sharing this. So I thank you. And I know everyone's going to appreciate you for it.
No, thank you. It kind of feels like, in a way, like I'm coming out to the world, just because only 2 members of my family know that I'd fallen pregnant and had a termination. Not many of my friends really know either. It's something I've kind of kept secret, not for any form of shame, just because, I don't know, it's not something that I really wanted to do. And I know that the doctors that you go to see to have the procedure, they do make sure that this is a decision that you want to make and that you're happy to do it and you're not being forced. And I lied. I did feel forced. Like, I didn't know what I wanted. And the people in my life at the time were telling me, you can't have a baby. Like, look at your life. Like, you can't do this. And the partner that I was with, he ultimately told me, like, oh, I'll support you, whatever you choose is fine. I'll be there for you, but I don't want a family. So it was a really toxic way of telling me that he
Yeah.
wasn't going to be there and that I would be on my own. And I was terrified. But yeah, I went to the clinic and was very ignorant to the fact that it would take 2 days. I thought, you go in there, you get it done, and that's it. I think I was 8 weeks pregnant, I think. And I'm not sure if the process is different for other people depending on the weeks, but my experience was that I went there, they scanned my tummy, they checked me for STIs, for any blood infections. They weighed me and obviously checked if it was something that I wanted. When they gave me an ultrasound on my tummy, the woman actually said to me, "Are you experiencing any pain in this region?" And she pressed quite hard on my right side. And I said, "Yeah, I've been experiencing all kinds of pain, but where you're pressing there, it really hurts." And she said to me, there's actually quite a big cyst here, which is perfectly normal. Usually most, if not all, pregnant women develop a cyst, but it will go away after the termination or after the pregnancy. However, if it doesn't go away, then just let your doctor know and they can have another look, because sometimes the pain can mirror on the other side, or it can get bigger, or it can burst. But in any case, if it's still causing you pain and it's there, it can be removed. So I said, okay, that's fine. Jumping forward to about 2017, I still had the pain, if not worse. And the pain was very difficult to describe to someone. The closest that I've got from any doctor or another person that has a similar pain was that it's like contractions. So sometimes it can be like a shooting, stabbing pain right in my abdomen. Sometimes it's like a dull pain that stays for a really long time. It's not something that I've ever felt before, and I knew that it wasn't cramps. I knew it wasn't anything to do with my period, because it was happening all the time, in the middle of the night, when I'm walking on the street, when I'm sat, when I'm cooking, when I'm at work. And every time it would catch me, it would completely throw me off guard. And I would have to stop what I was doing for a minute, take a breather, and then sit down, because it was getting too much. And at first it was every so often, like every few days. Then it got less and less and less, to the point where it was every single day. I contacted my doctor, and she had said to me, like, oh, I'm going to send you for an ultrasound. I said, okay, cool. We've been for one of those before. Explained about the termination, because I went to a clinic to have the termination. I didn't go to my doctor. So my doctor wanted to check herself. So she sent me to the hospital to have a external ultrasound on my tummy, where they told me that the cyst wasn't there no more. So they don't know what the pain could be. So, okay. Then the pain was still going as it was. And just researching, I wasn't really finding anything. And because I'd never really heard of endometriosis before at that period of time, so it wasn't on my radar. It wasn't something that I was actively looking up the symptoms. I then contacted my GP again, and she asked if I would be okay having an internal ultrasound. I said yes, because I had no idea what it was. Not that I would have a problem with it if I knew what it was, but I went out drinking the night before, and I'd slept with someone, and I was in quite a lot of pain in that region, because for me, sex can be quite painful during and after. And I went to my hospital appointment to have the internal ultrasound. Didn't realise until I went into the room that internal meant that they were going to go vaginally with I don't know what I would call it, something that looks similar to
like a camera kind of
yeah,
ballast device,
like something a little bit AI, maybe.
Doesn't feel fun.
Yeah,
Cold.
I know it's bad. I was 25, but I hadn't had my smear test yet, so I hadn't actually experienced anything like that inside. And I explained very quickly to the woman, I slept with someone last night. I'm in a bit of pain. I don't know if that like hinders anything, or if everything will be fine. She said, no, that's fine. She went in and had a look, and she also said to me, I don't see anything wrong here. There's no abnormalities. I don't see any cysts there. So you're all fine, but we'll send a report back to your doctor. I met up with my doctor, and she relayed the same information as what the technician at the hospital had said. At this point, I'd never seen a gynecologist, and it never entered my mind that that's someone that I would need to see or speak to. And it upsets me that it didn't even enter my GP's mind. They've never brought up a gynecologist to me, never brought up seeing a specialist to what the problem could be.
Bobbing you off a bit.
They were, yeah. There was someone that I worked with at the time. Her name's Reese. She's very, very helpful when it comes to any kind of bodily pain, very in tune with her own body and very good with advice. And she kind of, when I felt very defeated about not getting anywhere with it, I thought that was the end of the road. And she said to me, no, you need to keep going. You need to keep telling them, like, make sure you make them understand how much pain that you're actually in. And I've had many issues with my own health in general, where things have hit a brick wall. I've had problems with my ankle that's gone around for years with no answer. I've had issues with my back that I've had no answer to. I've also had a lot of problems with my mental health. I was diagnosed at a really young age with borderline personality disorder. And that, you know, it does get to a point where you're visiting the doctor so often, and every problem that you have, it's like, are you a hypochondriac? Are you making this up? You know,
Yeah.
because you do look at them and you think, oh, are they judging me? Like, they don't know how I'm feeling. Like, Gaynor's okay now with her mental health. She doesn't need to take any medication anymore. But oh, look, there's something wrong with her insides that there's no evidence of. So you kind of feel like you're going a bit crazy with all these things going around internally in your head with no answer whatsoever.
Yeah, I've been there. It's a lot when you go in there and you need to trust them and you need to feel like you have a rapport with someone and that they believe you. And I've been told many things before I got to my diagnosis, so I can firmly believe that you've been told some wild things and ignored in some wild ways. And it's sad, and I know they don't mean to do it, but I don't think they understand how much it impacts someone's life, you know?
Yeah, exactly. In 2017 as well, I got into a relationship with someone, and the thought entered my mind that all this pain could possibly be a sexually transmitted infection, that I've had this pain for a long time. We were using protection, but what if this is from before? What if this is from my partner that I had when I fell pregnant? Because it was evident that he was lying to me and misleading my trust in him. I do believe that he was unfaithful to me at one point. So in my head, trying to scramble all these things that it could be, one of them was a STI. And I had to have the conversation with my partner of that I'm not saying that you've given me anything, because I don't believe that you have. But what if this pain and all of this internal stuff I'm experiencing is something that's, you know, laid dormant? Because in a lot of women, we don't see the signs with many of them. And I've had a STI before. Years ago, I contracted chlamydia from someone that I was dating, and I didn't know. They called me up one day and said, look, I've got this. So you need to go and protect yourself. And when I went to the clinic to get it checked out, it turned out that I was positive at that time. I got it cleaned up. It was all right. And so I booked an appointment to see go to the clinic to get a full STI check. My partner agreed to do exactly the same. He did one and it all came back clear. So I knew to some degree that it was going to come back clear, because if his one was fine, then surely mine must be fine. The lady that I saw, she was really young and she was very chatty and very helpful. It was like being in a room with someone looking at my downstairs who was a friend. She made me feel very at ease. We were actually in there for quite a long time, probably too long, talking. And when I explained to her why I was there, she said to me, I can't believe that your doctor hasn't actually even suggested you see a gynocologist. Like, if you're really going through all this pain, I don't know why it's up to you to think maybe it's an STI. Why didn't they suggest that to you? Or, maybe it's something to do with your ovaries, or, what if there is something going on? What if it's your bowel? Like, it could be anything. Like, they should have at least taken the steps to have a look. And so she gave me the term polycystic ovaries. Like, that can cause these pains. And was my first sort of gateway into anything to do with endometriosis, was polycystic ovaries. And I know quite a few women that also have this. So then I started researching again. And a lot of things started to develop. Another sort of medical issue that I was going through in 2018 was I started to have migraines, which I never had before. And there was one occasion when I was going to work and I was walking down the stairs at a DLR station, and I completely lost sight, like lost vision in the lower parts of my eyes, and I fell down the stairs. And it had happened quite a few times that I'd lost my vision, and I just assumed, when you get up too fast, like maybe I got a bit dizzy, lost my footing, I'm not sure. But when the migraines started to get more and more, I went to go and see, first thing in my mind was an optician. It's my eyes. Maybe I need a new prescription. I'm really bad. I'm not wearing glasses at the moment, and I'm supposed to wear them all the time.
Right. I'm the same.
And so I went to see my optician. He tested me, tested my eyes, tested the health, had a look at my nerves at the back. Said he didn't find anything wrong with my eyes, but because of the loss of vision, he wrote a letter for me to emergency see my GP again, because he felt like there could have been some kind of damage from many, many years ago. I fell and hit my head, and it was never treated, never seen to. So he said, what if you've damaged something back there? You need to have a CT scan. So, oh God, something else to add to the list. And this completely pushed all of my search to do with my pain in my abdomen and my stomach to one side. And now I was focusing on my head. When they gave me a CT scan, I think it was, I had to wait 6 months to speak to the neurosurgeon. I then had to wait another 6 months to have my scan on my head in an MRI machine. I then had to wait another 6 months to speak to the neurosurgeon, sorry, again, for the results. So it was a year of waiting. And when all the results finally came back, my doctor actually said to me, look, you're on the contraceptive pill, the mini pill, and you can't be on it if you suffer with migraines, because you can have a stroke.
Okay.
And this wasn't something that I was really aware of. So there was obviously the thought process of, okay, so no more contraceptive pill. I don't want to commit to having the implant. I tried the patches before that they stick on you like a nicotine patch. I didn't really like that either. Also, it never really stuck properly. And when you have a shower or a bath, it always was coming off a little bit. And, you know, if it's coming off a little bit, is it really working?
Right.
And I'd thought about the coil before, and I was still
Oh,
with my partner, and he said, absolutely not, please do not have the coil. I don't want
I
you having
hated it. Mm-mm.
it's not something that you hear a lot of horror stories and
Scratchy inside, like it caused me my first pain I've ever felt gynecologically, if that's a word. I would never ever recommend the cool something. Some people love it, but I just felt
yeah,
like it made sex horrible, actually.
yeah, I'd be far too concerned about, is it going to come out? If I'm on the toilet, is it going to come out? Like one day I just looked down and it's in my trouser leg or something, or it dropped on the floor. I don't know how it works. I ultimately came to a decision that I just didn't want to be on anything, and that I would use condoms and protect myself that way. So then starts coming all the body washing out, all of the artificial hormones that are put in from contraception. I've got some notes here of what happened. I suffer with cystic acne on my head, where I get
Okay.
quite like big lumps. As a teenager, I had it on my head as well, and I used to take medication, which I then had to start taking again because it came back like crazy. I started gaining weight again.
This is
Which,
all because you came off the hormones.
yeah, all because I came off the pill. My periods went from being 3, maybe 4 days of light with 1 day of heaviness to the complete boom of 7 days, sometimes 8. And by day number 2, so heavy. Even now, I go through 2 packs in the one cycle.
Wow.
I'm constantly changing them, and I'm on the very embarrassing ones that you can't really hide from the world, like extra long, nighttime, extra thick, because it just doesn't stop. I just sort of assumed that this was my body's way of adjusting back to being normal.
Which
And
makes
then,
sense.
yeah, and I think this was all at this. So this was the start of 2018. Um, yeah, the start of 2018. Um, the pain started to get more frequent, and there was actually an occasion where me and my partner were having sex, and I had to ask him to stop because I started to get my pain, but it was different. There was something more dull about it, like a dull ache, and it wouldn't go. We stopped and we laid on the bed, and the position that I laid in was just flat on my back. And from then on, I couldn't move. The pain was so intense. My entire body kind of like seized up and froze.
Oh,
And
wow.
it went on for a really long, it went on without sounding dramatic, almost 2 hours. I thought I would need to call an ambulance at one point, and I think I just fell asleep during the pain. I took some ibuprofen. My partner got me a hot water bottle, but it was horrible. Um, I didn't know what to do. I live with my mum. I didn't particularly want to call my mum in, because I'd just been doing the deed.
You're
And
like,
I was laying there, so there's no way that I could have put clothes on myself. Like I couldn't even move like a bit of my chest to sit up because there was so much pain. I was just there in tears, and I couldn't really speak either. It was just intense. And I think that's the most intense that the pain has ever been, and that's the longest that I've had it in one stretch of time. It was hard, and it was hard for my partner to understand as well. I'd explained to him about my pains before, and he knew about them, and he's very understanding. But I think that shocked him because he didn't particularly know to the extent of how much pain I could physically be in, just from sex that wasn't even particularly crazy or high maintenance. It's just bog standard. Yeah, and from then, that kind of prompted me to really push now to get some help. It was back and forth again with the ultrasounds. That seems to be the running theme of how a diagnosis goes, when I now know, not for fact, but I now know that that's not a proper way to even be on the spectrum of someone's suspicion that you could have endometriosis, because it can't be possible. Endometriosis actually grows on the outside of your uterus.
Yeah.
And when you're having an internal examination, it's the inside. So when they're telling me it's fine, there's no, God, I'm going to mess this word up. There's no endometrial tissue on the inside, but it's commonly on the outside. So why I'm being told that there's none on the inside and there's no endometriotal cysts, it was just bizarre. I don't know.
It's meant to mirror your periods at points. I watched something recently, and obviously because it's on the outside, it seemed to go through the same stages as your internals during your period cycle, which I thought was interesting. So you'd be losing blood, but you wouldn't necessarily know that it was because of that why it would be more intense. And sometimes it only happens in that time. For some people, they have cysts kind of more regularly. And I realized there was many different versions of what that was. And I've always been intrigued to how do they find that if they're doing an external exam or an internal exam? It's literally somewhere in between both parts of that situation. So I'm really interested in they find how they find out that, and what they particularly do to see those kinds of results, because I have the weirdest kind of internal gynecological kind of movements, and every time, like you, I go and get like a ultrasound, and you think it's always your hormones are fine, ultrasound's fine, get out fine, and I'm always like, I don't feel fine though. So am I, like you said, am I a hypochondriac? And I don't feel like I am, because you know the pain you're in, you feel it.
Yeah,
It
you
feels
know
very much real. But how, sorry to cut you, but how did you where did they go next after doing something that shows nothing to find something that does?
I was in a new job, and a new member of staff joined my team. Her name's Faye, and ultimately she's the person who said to me, like, I have endometriosis, and from what you're telling me, you have endometriosis. And I was like, what? Like, I'd heard the word before, but I knew it was some kind of chronic illness. I knew it was something to do with women. I assumed it was something to do with periods, but I didn't know to the full extent that I could have it. And we'd talked a lot over the phone, like on our break at work, on the walk to the bus stop. And her, alongside my other friend, Reese, constantly saying to me, look, gynecologist, you need to go and see one, you need to tell them now. Like, and they both kind of said to me, you know, you're going to be 30 soon, like you need to get it sorted, like especially if you want children. And that's something that really stuck in my head, because my dream, despite having a termination, terminations don't determine a woman's choice of what she wants in the future. Like, you can do whatever you want with your own body. Like, it's your choice, it's no one else's choice. And I knew that I wanted a family in the future. I want kids. I want a lot of kids. I want 5.
5? Fucking hell.
I want an army of kids. And so that really resonated with me when my friend said, look, if you want children, you need to do something about it, because if you get to a point where you realize that that's what you have and you're like 8 years older than what you are now, what's the likelihood that you're going to be able to have your own children, or have it without the cost effect of needing IVF or a surrogate or something else? So I really pressed with my doctors, my GP, that I wanted to see a gynecologist. And that was at the beginning of this year. So I got sent for another internal ultrasound, which came up nothing. And I then had to just sit and wait, because the pandemic started, which put a big burner on everything. I had to wait for a phone call, because they weren't doing internal ultrasounds, they weren't doing in-person meetings, everything was over the phone. And when I had my telephone appointment, I think it was June, it was near the time of my birthday, and it was quite difficult on the phone, because I felt like I wasn't being listened to. I was saying how I was feeling and what the pain was like, and the doctor, the gynecologist, kind of like kept dropping words, like as if she wasn't listening. Like I said, oh yeah, I have a full 7-day period, and I bleed the whole way through. And she was like, okay. And then later on, when she would read the note, she would say, oh, so you have a 5-day period and it's not very heavy. And I'm like, no, that's literally not what I said. I didn't say that at all. So there was a lot of that back and forth, and that took a lot of time. I then kept getting scheduled appointments to have another internal ultrasound, because my last one had been several months ago, and they wanted a new updated one before they sent me to see the gynecologist, to actually speak to her and have an examination. And then 2 days before the appointment, I'd get a text message to say, your appointment is telephone. Please do not come to the hospital. And I was like, how is anyone going to look in there? Have I got to go on FaceTime and show you? I don't know how this is going to work. And those telephone appointments, no one rang me. And it was getting very frustrating. And then one day I got a telephone call from the hospital to say that I'd been booked a pre-assessment. And I was like, oh, okay. I didn't even know I was going to be having a pre-assessment. And we'd discussed, me and the gynecologist, I need to check the word because I always pronounce it wrong. And she said that she was going to send me in to have an investigation with a laparoscopy.
A laparoscopy.
I didn't know what. Yeah. I'm always mispronouncing it. I've had to write it down here with laparoscopy.
I showed you that too.
And you know what? It's probably the wrong word entirely. And so, yeah, we discussed that I was going to have an investigation into if I had endometriosis, and this is the way that they do it.
But what made them prompt them to think that though? Like if they had been ignoring you that whole time, and they every time they'd done a scan or they'd done an ultrasound, they were like, no, there's nothing there. Why did one day, after taking 2-3 appointments away from you that were meant to be on the phone,
Yeah.
did they just randomly then weeks later send you and go, hi, here's a pre-assessment for endometriosis? Like, is that not like way left field for you? Is that not like another hit where you're just like, sorry, what? Like, even though you've spoken to your friends and they've kind of gone, hey, Gaynor, possibly this, there's no reason they should be almost mirroring that back to you.
Yeah.
To me, that would be like, well, why do you think this now?
Yeah. I'd mentioned the reason I wanted to see the gynecologist, and I said to the gynecologist herself over the phone, the reason that I want to see you is because I want to be tested. Like, I don't know why it's not even been suggested. I want to be tested just to make sure.
So you
And
advocate for yourself, basically. You kind of was like, look, my friends have said this to me. This is what's going on in my life, and nothing else is coming up. Why can you not test me for this? Well done. That's good.
yeah, and ultimately, everyone that I've spoken to, that's the same. The way the story has gone is that they've, been their number one fan and said, I want this, give me this. And, a lot of blind eyes have been turned to what they're asking for, which is something very simple. And this is probably very far-fetched of me saying it, but I believe that the only reason why they don't pull their thumb out from the word go when you say that there's issues down below is that it's money.
Yeah.
Because the only determining factor that I have researched and that I've been told to decipher if someone has endometriosis or not is by having the laparoscopy. And if you don't have it, then you'll never know.
For
And
people that don't know, what is I can't say the word myself. What is that? Like, what does that entail?
so a laparoscopy is a minor surgery where you're put to sleep and they put a camera in through your belly button and they
Okay.
have a look, and if they find anything of what they're looking for, I think you can have a laparoscopy for loads of different procedures. I don't think it's just tailored to gynecological things. I think that's kind of like the belly button is the entryway, the eye to the soul. And yeah, they go in, they have a look, they puff your stomach full of air, so that they can have a real good look around. And if they find anything, they then make an incision through your side, or multiple incisions if they need to go in with an instrument, which is a laser, and they burn the things away, or they repair what they need to repair. And I know the NHS for us is free, but it costs the NHS money to do these things. And I think they hold off on it because otherwise they'd be giving laparoscopies to people 15,000 times a day all over the place, and it costs them God knows how much money. And it's sad because I feel like a lot of people do get ignored and fobbed off, and they feel like what we said before, like they're hypochondriac, or it's nothing. My doctor told me it's nothing, so it's nothing. And they could go on living like this for the rest of their lives and have endometriosis or polycystic ovaries, or I think it's adenomyosis or adenomyosis, which is similar but a bit different. It affects the organs sticking together.
Oh yeah.
And it affects a lot in women's bowels. But ultimately, you'd never know unless you had this procedure. And I had my pre-assessment, which was taking bloods, being COVID tested, then isolating for the time before, isolating before you go in there. And I was told that, I think this was October or November. No, it was mid-November. And they said it's going to be about 6 or 7 weeks into the new year. And the way they were dealing with the backlog of women that they needed to do this procedure on was that they were they'd hired more teams of people at one of my local hospitals, so not the one closest to me where I'd had my pre-assessment, but one is a sistering hospital. They hired loads of new staff, loads of people to come and help with the surgery, with the amount of number of women that needed it. And so I thought, okay, wait, at least I'm booked in, at least I'm going to be seen, at least I'm being taken seriously. And within a few days, I got a phone call to say, someone has cancelled. Would you like to take it? It's on the 4th of December. And I thought, whoa, that's really close. Like, I'm not sure, I'm scared. All of the emotions all at once, the tears. And I had to think about it. And then when I mentioned it to my friend Faye and my friend Reese, they both said to me, look, you're really lucky to be given, like, in the climate at the moment, this appointment. You need to go for it. Just take it, because you might be waiting months. You never know. You've waited all this time. What have you got else left to wait for? Why are you going to cry about it? Why are you getting nervous? Just go. So I took the appointment and I prepared myself. I had to be COVID tested. I had to isolate or shield for 72 hours before. I then, it's weird because anybody that's had like surgery will know the procedures of surgery. You know, you shouldn't eat so many hours before, you can't drink so many hours before. My surgery was, I think, meant to be in the afternoon. If I'm remembering correctly, it was supposed to be around 2 p.m. So I knew that I could eat and drink or take sips of water up until about 10, maybe 11 o'clock. I got a phone call at 8 in the morning saying, you can come in early, can you get here for 10? So straight away, woke my mum up, who was going to be driving me there, and said, look, they've said I can come in for 10, should I go? And she said, yeah, let's go. I hadn't eaten or drank anything since the night before when I had dinner. So I'm very hungry, I'm very thirsty, my mouth was really dry. We got there and I was waiting on the ward until 3:30, 4 o'clock, and I still hadn't been taken in yet. The final sort of consultation that I'd had with I think she was the assistant to the surgeon, that was going to be doing the procedure. She took me into a room just to like check everything, you know, make sure I have the socks on and everything's locked away to go on the ward. And she got up on the screen my most recent ultrasound and quote said to me, you see, you're very healthy, your ovaries are healthy, everything is fine. We're not expecting to find anything today. We're just going to go in, check, confirm, come back out, and you'll be fine. And I was like, okay. And I said to her, if that is the case, then what do I do? And she said, well, pain relief, and I'm not sure how else we can investigate or what else we can investigate for. I said, okay, fine. And I sat there playing Pokemon Go until I was allowed to go in. And when I went in, I was anxious. I haven't had any kind of surgery, never broken a bone. The most time that I've spent in a hospital was that I went in when I was 6 to have my tonsils removed because I had 3 tonsils instead of just the 1 or 2 that you're supposed to have.
Oh, wow.
So never really, apart from that one time, never been put asleep. That's something that I was really anxious about. I went in, I was fine, I was calm. Obviously, no visitors or anyone is allowed in the hospital with you. I went in with the assistant to the surgeon and she got up my most recent ultrasound results, and she was showing me, and she said, as you can see, everything's normal. Like, your womb is perfectly healthy, your ovaries, everything's fine. We're not expecting to find anything. Like, everything's going to be all right. Like, we're not expecting to find any endometriosis at all. And I thought, right, okay, cool. Like, and I asked her, if that is the case, then what do we do about that? And she said to me, well, as far as an investigation, like, not really sure where you would go next, because we don't know what else to look for to explain the pain. So I kind of felt like this surgery was going to be like a open and shut case of yes or no, but then also leaving a door open. If it was a no, then what else is this going to be? So I went to go and be put under, which was all fine. I was anxious about that because I'm scared of surgery, and the only surgery that I've had was my tonsils when I was really young, when I was like 6. I had 3 instead of the normal 1 or 2 that you're supposed to have. But at the same time, I was kind of like welcoming the forced sleep, because I had loads of issues going on at the same time with work and just with emotions and the pandemic in general. So I was kind of welcoming a sleep that I couldn't wake up out of my own like volition. Like, I'd be forced to wake up when I wake up. So I was looking forward to that. Oddly enough, didn't have any weird dreams. I don't know if people have dreams when they're under anaesthetic or not. But when I woke up, it was so bizarre. It was like going to sleep and then waking up. And when I woke up, all I could make out in the whole like recovery room was the clock on the wall, and I could see the big hand and maybe the small hand a little bit. It was very blurry. My eyesight, I don't know if it's to do with the anesthetic or my eyesight in general, but I could not make anything out. Everything was a blur. And it was like that when I looked at the clock for about half an hour, 40 minutes. It was just blank. It was so weird. I do smoke. I smoke roll up cigarettes. And I've heard that anesthesia for smokers when they come round isn't very nice. And when I woke up, I was freezing, like chattering constantly, shivering. They had to get me a heated blanket, like a one that's like blown up with warm air, and then 2 extra blankets on top of that. I just couldn't. I was really not with it. And while I was out of it, like, I may have been awake, but I was nowhere near lucid. I had the assistant surgeon come back over to me again, and I knew it was her because she had long brown hair, and that's all I could see was this like woman with long brown hair. And her voice was very clear, but obviously I couldn't see her face. And she said to me, "Oh, the surgery went fine, everything's good. However, we found a deep-rooted old infection which we've got rid of. And also you do have endometriosis.
I'm just like blasé.
Literally like black and white, boom in your face. Everything's fine, but like drop a bomb right there.
Okay.
2 bombs. And I tried to get as many questions out as I possibly could, but I was not by any means awake. Like I was half asleep, and I knew that this was my chance to like ask everything that I could. And being that no one else is allowed in the hospital, no one's there to be my voice, no one's there to ask me for me. Like I don't have a pen and
Or
paper.
comfort you.
Mm?
Do you know what I mean? No one there to comfort you either. You're getting all this information and your mum's not there, your friends are not there. No one's there. No Reg to like give you that warmth that you probably need in that moment.
Exactly. My throat was sore from having the little tube down there, and it, because it's an experience that I've not had before, like since I was a child, it really threw me off. And I said to her, what infection? Like, what was it? And she said, oh, we don't know. We're not sending any specimens to the lab. And at that time, I was just like, but why? Like, why are you not checking? Like, why are you not asking? Like, I didn't say these things, but I was thinking them. And then I said, so I have endometriosis. And she said, yeah. And I said, so I have endo. She was like, yes, you have endometriosis, but we've lasered away the tissue that was growing. It can grow back, but you know, then you can come back and possibly have the surgery again. And I was like, but you're saying this as if it was like always a possibility. You told me there was no possibility. Like, and I was so shocked. And within seconds, she was gone. I don't know if I was like, at the time I thought, did I just hallucinate that? Like,
Yeah.
I'm confused because my eyes are still blurry, so I still can't make anything out. Then another woman came to me and told me she was my surgeon. And she said, oh, my colleague spoke to you, so we found an old deep-rooted infection and endometriosis, but don't worry, everything's going to be fine because the endo's now gone. And I thought, what do you mean it's gone? Like, I know it doesn't just go. Like, I know you lasered it away. And I said to her, what's this infection? First thing that springs to my mind is this an STI again? Even though I've been checked and I know I'm clear, but if it was old and deep rooted, which are 2 things that I didn't even know could occur with,
Same. I'm like, it's all this conversation.
it could literally be anything. And I said to her, like, what is it? Are you going to test for it? And she said, well, no, because the whole purpose of the laparoscopy is that we go in with a camera, we go in with an instrument, and we don't take anything because we're just getting rid of anything that shouldn't be there. So we're not actually taking specimens of things. And I was like, okay. And that was the main thing that I was like focused on, was this infection, because I thought, well, what is it? And then she said to me, I really think you should give up smoking. And I said, okay, cool. That's my choice, but I'll take it into account. Thank you. And then she said, also, you need to be on contraception. Maybe you should go on the pill. And I said, I can't go on the pill because stroke. And that's all I could say because I was so muddled. I said, I have problems with migraines, stroke. I can't. And then she said, well, you can have the implant or you can have the coil. A lot of women with endometriosis have the coil and they say it helps with the pain and whatever, any other things like managing the period itself, like the bleeding. I know it's helpful, but I don't particularly want it. And I said to her, no, I don't want that. And then really out of the blue, she just said to me, do you want children? And I was like,
While you're still like fucking.
It was like an interrogation almost. And again, I'm not awake. So it was all too much thrown at me. I didn't have a chance to process it. I couldn't even have a sip of water yet. So it was confusing. It was too much information at once.
Why is she asking you that question?
What do I want children? I know it's a valid question of asking if I do, but it's a bit much to ask someone who's very emotional, who's just come out of surgery, you've just shoved two things in their face, to say that they have something or had something now that they've got rid of it. I just couldn't fathom what was going on in that moment at all, and I was not prepared. I don't know. And then I think my vision slowly started coming, and I got put back on the ward, taken out of the recovery area. And then when I was really more awake and able to have food, all I could have was jelly. I tried to have the sandwich and it was so dry. And I was already dry. I couldn't eat it. It was horrible. When one of the nurses, that they'd been there all day, so I knew them by name, and I said, like, oh, can I talk to the surgeon? Can I talk to her about, I don't remember what she said, or just trying to like grasp at anything to get them to come over, because I felt more alive to be able to really go through what she was saying to me. And she said, oh no, they've all gone now. You were the last person on the ward, and all the surgeons have gone. And I was like, well, can you talk to me then? And she was like, oh, I'm just the ward nurse. And on the ward is all different kinds of people in for all different kinds of surgery. The woman in the bed next to me was having spinal surgery. Another guy was having a tube in his throat. Like, everyone was there for different things. And slowly, one by one, people were leaving as well. They were all being taken home and discharged. I was actually one of the very last, well, I was the very last person to leave. I was there at 10 o'clock at night, and everyone was meant to be gone by 7. But I couldn't pass urine. It just wasn't happening. I had a lot of sickness as well. And ultimately that left me with the option of staying there overnight, which I really didn't want to do, and I wasn't prepared for. And I just wanted to be in my own bed and be with my mum, because I hadn't seen her at all. And they're not going to tell her over the phone what had happened. So I wanted to tell her and eat something that I wanted to eat. So it was, the option to stay there the night or be fitted with a catheter bag and go home. I had no idea what a catheter bag entailed. I now do. And I will never volunteer for one again.
Yeah.
It was not pleasant with the healing, not being able to physically be as mobile as I would be if I hadn't already just had surgery, and having that as well, and having to walk around outside with it in a plastic bag, and it was all too much. But ultimately, that's the end of my story, because I have had no follow-up, no courtesy call, if you want to call it that.
How long ago was that from now? So we're now in January.
The 4th of December.
So that's been like over a month, 4 weeks, and no one even sent you a letter to be like, are you okay? Are they assuming that if you weren't, you'd be calling them already? And since that conversation of her walking up to you, saying to you, hi, you've got a infection, yes, you have endo, but we've made it disappear, and do you want a child? Which I don't even know what you said to her, but that's a lot of questions. They've not said anything to you since then?
No.
And they didn't say anything in your discharge notification to say, hey, we'll follow up, or anything like that?
No, my discharge notes actually say no follow-up with GP, no follow-up with gynocologist. Like, it is literally just a closed book. And I don't know if that's down to the pandemic or if that's their common practice of this procedure. Or I kind of feel like I've been cheated in a way of knowing how to go forward now, because all I've done since I left is look up endometriosis online, look up other endo warriors on Instagram, looking at forums at women discussing the issues and what they found. I've had a lot of people reach out to me on my Instagram stories after I posted quite a few things in my diagnosis, asking me like, oh my God, like what were the symptoms? Like I have symptoms like that too. Like, can you explain to me your journey? And it's just crazy that it seems to be this thing that no one knows anything about, but affects all these women. And you're then left with, yep, you have it. Yeah, that's it.
You're
Like,
like,
it's
bye
just,
now.
it's bewildering to me. Like, I don't get it. It's
Did
bizarre.
they tell you what your journey is though? Because she's going to, do you want kids? And you're saying yes or no. You said yes, you did.
Yeah.
5. But what did she say to you then? Did she say it's possible? Did she say it's not possible? Did she say, call us up if you plan to do this? We'll assist you, or maybe we need to assist you? Was it just a
I,
blasé conversation, like a brethren going up to you? Hey, you want a drink of vodka? And do you want kids? You're like, oh yeah, sure. Why not make that double? Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was literally just shot fire questions. I answered them, and then she was gone. And that's no shade against her. Like, she'd been doing those procedures all day on women, and I get that, but it's not helpful to me, someone who's been actively told, you ain't got it, you're not going to have it, everything's going to be fine, look at this, look, it's fine. And then, oh no, you do have it, and you have this as well, but we're not telling you what that is. Like, it was just all too much, and it still is too much. And it's like the blind leading the blind, in that there's all these women talking and trying to help each other, and we don't know it all. I mean, there's not even a scientifically proven way of where this comes from, how it starts, or why you get it. It's
There's
just
no
a
cure to it.
no, there's nothing. They don't know if you have it from birth, if it's something that develops from when you start getting periods, if it's something to do with rough sex, maybe something happens, or even if it's something to do, which I've commonly heard as well, terminations. That's something that I've heard from quite a few women. Like, they have a similar story in that they've had a termination, they developed a cyst, the cyst went, and then the pain continued. So I don't know if it's the trauma that your body goes through, seeing as it is a oh, what's the word? A forced miscarriage.
Yeah.
There we go. Um, I'm not sure,
But there's
but
no one's collecting the data
no.
on this, which is the issue, because there could be, like with the stuff with MS, I make it my mission to talk to people and kind of note down what they're saying about like the wildest symptoms and stuff like that no one talks about, because there could be a correlation. There could be a correlation with women that just have miscarriages, or women that do have terminations, or maybe everyone notices their first symptom at 15 and they know what the first symptom is. Like, but unless someone's sitting there and acknowledging, hey, that's something maybe the community could do together. A few people can join up and maybe speak to other endo warriors and figure out what that common denominator is in everyone's story, to try and piece that together themselves, so that they can maybe educate each other in a way that maybe they will never do. I know it's because they've got no time or no money, or what the situation is, or because, like, Black people get told that they're, their pain is invalid, and they see that if we say we're in pain, that they don't take it seriously. That same narrative is played on the female form as well, where if you're a woman, you say you're in pain, you're being delusional, you're being weak, or it's not as painful as you're saying it is. And that's something that I know a lot of women, for many different reasons, have dealt with, and a lot of Black people, for many different reasons, have dealt with, that it could be something that is causing a lot of issues in collecting data and helping people have a diagnosis a lot quicker than they are, and for people to understand what's going on. Because you had years, and to be honest, the amount of time that you've said, from what I've learned, is still actually quite a small time in comparison to a lot of other people. But the amount of things that you've had to go through, the things people have said to you that was just not okay. There was no
back and forth of the same thing, like as if we haven't had enough ultrasounds. Like, come on.
no finesse in how the information's being delivered to you. There's no one, but like I want a world where like someone goes in for, especially if there's a person that's doing say 10, 12 procedures a day, I don't know, it could be an hour of surgery per person and they're just going from person to person. But if there's like an information section, booklets, a person, a website to go with, here's a follow-up situation, where's an endo nurse? And as someone that just, you know, advocates or talks to new people or new patients dealing with the scenario about it, so they can better understand, or even just connecting them with someone else that also deals with what you deal with, having a friend, a mentor, someone that even on an emotional level, because we do have family members, and yes, we speak to them and absolutely they love us and want the best for us, but like I know of MS, it's nothing like speaking to someone else that's in your situation, because you can believe that they understand. You're talking to me. I'm not an endo warrior. I know if I had one of the other endo warriors next to me, that connection is going to be stronger, because when you're looking in each other's eyes, you can see that you've been through the same things. And I think that's valuable, having that kind of situation. And that's something that I would love to get hospitals to understand. And I know it probably takes a lot of money, but I think it'd probably save them money in the weirdest way, because they're not going to have to do 12 ultrasounds beforehand. They're going, okay, this sounds like this, let's do this, rule it out, rule it in. Probably should have started with that procedure and not ended with it. You know,
I mean,
food for thought.
there was a girl, bless her, she was so nice, very young, early 20s, in the bed on the side to mine, and she had gone in for her procedure before I'd even had mine, and I was still waiting, and she'd gone in, come out, and I'd seen the motions that she'd gone through with sitting up and, you know, trying to eat, trying to go to the bathroom, and she asked to speak to the surgeon because they were still around, and the surgeon came in, and I heard the conversation, and she said, "Are you sure there's nothing? Are you sure?" And the woman said, "Yeah, you've got no endometriosis. You're absolutely fine. Don't worry." And she started crying. And the woman said to her, "Why are you crying? Why is it happy tears because you're okay?" And she was like, "No, I'm upset and I'm crying because there's no justification for why I'm feeling this way, and I feel crazy." And I completely understood exactly what she was saying, because it was my fear too. And that's all I could think about before I was going in of, great, am I going to come out and it's going to be the same thing? Like, that's the main thing that I don't want. And yeah, it's horrible to be diagnosed with something, but at the same time, it's also a relief because you have an answer.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
My whole life of having problems, like I said to you earlier, with my back and my ankle and my head, with no answers, finally something with like a line drawn under it, what it is. And at least now I can go forward. But I just wish that all the other women that are feeling this way or similar or are curious, I wish they could all also have a line drawn under it and know exactly what's going on, know that they're healthy, know that there's something wrong, know that there's something that can be fixed. And it's wild how many undiagnosed people there are. And there's 1 in 10 women that are diagnosed with it, and what if there's more?
Yeah, there could be. That's what they know, and what they know is not much.
Yeah.
And that's the issue. Like, I know, probably from the days that they said we were witches, you know, like those things where you've kind of just been like, femininity has just been like, we won't deal with periods, we don't deal with the womb. It is just for one thing, and and it's just too much. So I just want to say from my heart to yours, thank you. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for sharing your story. I appreciate it, and I know that a lot of people are going to resonate with that and probably want to ask you some questions at some point, because they're going to feel connected to the story. And I don't know, I feel connected to the story in so many more ways than you'd understand. And I know I have friends that deal with situations and things very similar to you. So thank you for being here, because I know it wasn't easy to share that story. I hope in some way it's helped you too. And I hope that you keep pushing for answers and for community as well, because you deserve, even if they can't give it to you, to have like-minded individuals that maybe together that you can create something that's quite beautiful. I want to ask you before we sign off for today's episode, is there anything you wanted to say before we go?
Yeah, I just wanted to say a couple of things that I've written down, like symptoms, just in case anyone watching or listening feels any of these things. It's so super important that you know exactly what's going on inside. And if I can help anyone in any way from this video, it'd be to encourage to do something about it. Don't do what I did, and I may not have been waiting for as long as other people that have pushed for it, but don't sit on your problems and don't sit on your pain, because you do not have to. Like, you shouldn't be taking it. Main symptoms: lower back and tummy pain, painful and heavy periods, pain during sex and after sex, like what I spoke about earlier. I think that's something that's very definitive. Like, I don't know if pain should or pain. I don't know if sexual intercourse should or shouldn't be painful, but if you are experiencing pain, then it's something to open up about, and don't feel tabooed by it. Don't be afraid. Don't be anxious to talk about those things, because they're valid and they're important.
Yeah.
Bleeding and spotting, feeling sick, constipation, diarrhea, blood in the urine when on your period. Fatigue is something that really hits, like feeling unnaturally tired, not getting that energy no matter how much you try. That's a big factor that I don't think is spoken about enough. Bloating, any hardness of the stomach, and women with endometriosis, the biggest thing that hits them is depression and anxiety and mental health, if not just because of how they're feeling, not just because low mood, but also because if you are having and experiencing pain during and after sex, it's often something that you get anxious to do the act. And to, if you're single or with a partner, anything, you shouldn't let that stop you from enjoying yourself and for doing what our bodies naturally do. But yeah, anything to do with mental health.
No, I get
too.
And I appreciate you sharing that, because that's important. And even though those things can cover so many things, you don't necessarily link those situations together. So hearing that possibly those are the symptoms, there's probably a lot of people that deal with different things like that, but would never think, oh, my stomach pain is linked to my mental health.
Yeah.
And my mental health is linked to my heavy period. yeah, you might go, it's annoying and stressful, periods are, but are you really going to make that connection? So thank you for sharing that, because I think that's valuable information for people to know. Even for me, my brain's going, well, you feel like that, and you feel like this. Maybe you should just go and have a look, because you never know. Like you, I've had 2 cervical exams and they've come back both fine, but I know that doesn't mean anything either. Do you know what I mean? There's so many other layers. So thank you for that. Just to everyone listening, if you want to ask Gaynor more questions or anything like that, please go to Instagram, go follow her at Gaynor Blackbird. Obviously, I will be putting her on spillingteawithroxy and tagging her, so that if you can't find it, then come spillingteawithroxy and follow over to her. I'm sure she's happy to answer any questions. And if you have any information you can give to Gaynor,
Yes,
even
please.
better. You
Give me
know,
some.
send her all the positive energy and all the information, and just connect as a community of people. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you, Gaynor, for being here. I know this is a really sensitive subject, but thank you for sharing it, and I love you all. And as usual, warriors, from my heart to yours, much love here from Spillingtea Roxy.